to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get started, I know there's a lot of you that haven't attended the meetings before. What we try to do is that the reason we're seated here is that we had a vote a number of months ago, and we decided we don't like sitting behind the podium. It's too formal, so we sit here, and that's why we do it. However, we do follow the township procedures as far as meetings is concerned. We'll give our reports, the action items that we have. What we do is we're going to have this, like the township does, we have a discussion of the item. We voice our opinions with regard to that item, and then we open it up to the floor for comments only for that particular item. Comments from the attendees, and then we make a recommendation for a vote. At the end of the meeting, the folks are welcome to make any other comments about any items concerning the open space program. For example, on the item dealing with this Elmar Meadows, when we say, are there any comments, we'll have just a couple of minutes to give your views on that particular item. And that's what we do, and that's what the township does. Okay. All right, so as far as the minutes of the last meeting, they were not available, so we'll dispense with that. Are there any additions or deletions to the current agenda? Consent?
Yeah, we're
on there. And then yeah.
It's not, they brought up a area where somebody cut wood that wasn't supposed to be cut wood.
We can handle that under other comments.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Leah, is there any other additions or changes to the minutes? If not, we stand as presented. Leah Shelkey is not going to be here this evening. She's tied up, and she's asked that any decisions that are made, that this meeting be forwarded to her so that she can go inform the Recreation Committee. There is we have a procedure whereby we have a liaison with the Recreation Committee, so we maintain a close relationship with them. So they have a liaison that attends our board meetings, or our township open space meetings, rather. Pat, is there anything new as far as the Conservancy is concerned?
Just want to mention that the developer unit of the Wildlife Refuge, former nature area, is open on Sunday afternoons through the fall from 1 to 4. There's a specific event this Sunday called Insect Discovery, and the naturalist Natalie Ray will be leading that. Chance to learn about and explore bugs up close and personal. There's also going to be some other events over the course of the fall, some of them in the nature area, some possibly on open space or in Westcroft Gardens Woods, and there's probably going to be another owl prowl or two. Those were very popular when they were held earlier. And the best way to find out about the Conservancy events is the Twitter newsfeed, GINLC, or the Conservancy's Facebook page, or the websites, and sometimes it's also in the camera or on GITV, but really Twitter and Facebook for the Conservancy are the best place to go.
Thank you.
GINLC, Versio Nature Mining Conservancy.
Pam, is there anything new with regard to the township activities related to the open space program?
Well, Woody just reminded me, and I meant to make a note. during the public comment at our last board meeting, Bev Dornbush got up and said that there had been some live trees cut, and when the neighbors consulted the tree cutters, they said it was open space and they were breaking a trail. And nobody knew about it. I didn't know about it. You knew about it. And the agreement was to look into it and get the names of whoever the neighbors were that observed this. And they were
is off Burning Bush between Park Lane and Canterbury. And it does extend up to that stretch of open space that goes between the south end of Park Lane, where the school is at the park, and south. But I don't know where anybody working on it. I have to work on it.
Okay, now was there is a possibility, I'm not saying it's intentional, that if you recall at one of the last meetings, and when was this occurred? Did you say when was it occurred?
I don't recall we were given a date.
Before the other township meeting.
Okay. There, I'm not saying this is fact, but the trail that existed between the end of Park Lane and Stout Street had a trail going through it. The trail had become overgrown and unusable with trees that had fallen because of the ash core program. A lady came before our committee and asked if the trail was put in. There was a lot of discussion about the trail, as there always is. And if you recall, we decided and voted to do, not to put a trail, but to merely clear the trees that had been overgrown. And I think that's what might be the case. Subsequent to that, I received a call from a resident who said they were cutting some trees, and this is going back either last fall or spring. And he said they're not on open space, they're on private land. So I went over and immediately investigated, and lo and behold, he had encroached on some private land by accident. So I told him that we would take care of it. We did. We followed up on it, and everything was, was ended in a cordial, professional manner. Now, whether that's the same instance that Ms. Dornbush is talking about, I don't know. But I know it's a lengthy explanation, but that's what may be talking about.
You haven't heard from Dale because Dale was going to look into it.
Fine, okay. That's what it, I'm not saying that's what it was, I'm saying that's what it could be. Okay, all right. Now,
And I think those weren't dead, those weren't live
They were
trees.
live.
those
They were live?
She said specifically they were live trees
Oh, yes,
that were
her
cut.
report was live trees,
Yeah.
but when we authorized some tree cutting, it was some trees that had fallen over a
That's
trail
correct. That's
where
right.
her daughter would like to have walked to school.
There were no live trees that were cut.
Do we know the name of the company that was doing the cutting?
Yeah, on that property, TNT.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
TNT.
No?
That's, the TNT was cutting it, but not in the question mark with Ms. Dornbush brought up. We don't know who was cutting.
Oh, we don't know who.
Yeah, we don't know who it was, but the area that was cleared by us for use of that trail was TNT.
Okay.
And that's the, we call the blanket order source that we have for tree cutting and removal. Okay, anything else, Pam?
Well, I reported at the last Township Board meeting that Josh Shaw, who had come before us with his tree project, it's completed now, and he's done a nice little brochure that's downstairs in the clerk's office. So if anybody wants to take a little trip around the island, he's got GPS and shows where the native trees of Grosse Seal are. So that project is complete, and I've seen a little laminated explanation of what the tree is and what the bark looks like and what the leaves look like, and he and his scout friends have completed that project. So he's in line for an Eagle Scout Award because of his tree project.
Okay, anything else?
One thing more. We talked about the open space millage.
Yes.
And I brought up, because we haven't met until now, and we didn't meet over the summer, but it had come before the Township Board that we would do a 1 mil renewal of open space. And I brought up at the meeting that it was too bad that you hadn't been brought in to just to extend the courtesy of your comment on that. And I think it's basically because it had come up at a meeting, the language had to be in, there wasn't time to do a formal presentation before our committee because we didn't meet during the summer. So I think it would have been a courtesy to include you in what your comment might have been. Yeah.
All right.
But it is a done deal now, and it's going to be a 1 mil request for a renewal.
Renewal. Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that in the fall millage request, the one we had last fall, that item would appear on our tax bill as open space millage, but it was not assessed.
Right.
Okay? It was not assessed, and it
expired.
It had expired at the end of last year, but it wasn't assessed, and the reason for that was because of the millage that was to be added for the sewer lawsuit litigation. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that's what it was for. Okay. Anything else, Pam?
That should cover it.
Okay.
Pam, wasn't sometime during that meeting also a request for Cliff to attend the next meeting?
Yes, that did come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I see the gentleman that asked for it is here, so.
He is, yes.
Okay. All right.
It's still a valid question.
Okay. As far as property acquisitions is concerned, just for sake of everybody here, per our established procedure, the Open Space Committee, the only participation that we have for property purchases is that when a piece of property is brought to the township manager's attention for possible purchase, the Open Space Committee reviews that piece of property and rates it according to how well it would fit into the open space program, and gives the township manager a result of our review. That is our only involvement. We do not get into any negotiations with regard to the purchase of any open space properties. But there was a piece of property that was brought before us, and we have reviewed it, and we'll be giving that to Dale Ream. Okay, now comes to the action items, and I know that this has created a lot of conversation and interest in the community, and the subject is the Albemarle Meadows open space update, and also which includes the proposed or planned trail that we had for that piece of property. And I use the word proposed. It wasn't. It was it was something we thought might be a good idea to get into. So, having said that, there's been a lot of discussion. I've received a lot of emails. So what we'd like to do, I'd like to go around the table and discuss the feelings about this proposal. What I've done is there was a environmental report that was given to me by an interested resident. I have emailed that to each and every one of you to review in detail, and I'll just start right around. Darrell, what's your feeling?
I feel that we should put this project on hold.
Okay.
For the reason that I am used to working everything with a positive cash flow.
Okay.
And because of Mr. Malvesto's interference,
Well, okay.
it turned into a negative cash flow. So I want to just put this on hold until we get it all together and proceed in the right way.
Okay. What's your comment? Do you have any comments on it, Woody?
Just that we pass all the requirements before we decide to go in again.
Okay.
I feel that the property is really not, because of what it was used for before, it really is not suited for development into a place where people might accidentally get hurt.
Well, I find that I don't think we should take any action on this, but I do wonder what happened when the report came out 6 years ago. Why no action was taken from the township in response to that report.
Let me answer that question, because I got the answer late this afternoon. I didn't get a chance to get to you. The report was prepared by the township in 2006, as stated in the report. And I asked a question. I said, well, was anything done as a result of that report? The answer was no. Nothing was done. And the reason given to me was the fact that the results of the report in the township's mind, now this is going back to 2006.
Correct.
That's 6 years ago. Was that the condition, as reported by the by the agency, had some areas that were on the borderline for concern, but were not quite there. Now, that's not my opinion. That's the opinion that was given, decided by the board at that time in 2006.
But in 2006, the property was not an open space.
No.
Correct.
So it was a township responsibility, not this committee's responsibility.
Yeah, the township...
And we never recommended it to be an open space. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, that piece of property, along with other pieces of property, i.e. the wildlife sanctuary, that property, and I think there was the property that's located on the corner of the Meridian and the Thoroughfare Canal on the west side, where the proposed kayak launch was talked about.
Correct.
A lot of controversy. That area, along with some other pieces of property, and the wildlife sanctuary, was transferred from township-owned with no deed restrictions to the open space program by the township board.
Okay.
In turn, the open space program, in other words, they transferred then, because of that transfer of all this property, I think there was about $1 million, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, was about $1.4 million was transferred.
It's more like $1.6 million, but yeah.
About $1.4 million to $1.6 million was transferred to the township general fund to be used to pay the Grosse Seal Bridge lawsuit litigation issue. So it's a long way of answering the question. No, it was not purchased by the Open Space Committee. It was-
So the recommendation from the 206 report that area be fenced in and padlocked all of a sudden became an open space. And my concept of an open space is that it's open for the public.
Exactly.
Yes.
I find that somewhat disconcerting.
Well, okay, all right. Pam, your comments.
Gentlemen.
No, we're going to go around the table. That's what we're going to do. And then, once we make our comments, then we'll...
Well, I have several thoughts on it. One is historic, because as a girl who grew up on Grosse Ile, I remember taking our Chevy filled with household trash in the back end over and putting it in the township dump. And I'm thinking now, how could we be so unthinkable to dump into a marshland? But that was what you did back in the 40s and 50s.
Part of your misspent youth, right?
Misspent youth. I can't imagine.
Aren't you glad you're so much wiser?
Doing that now. So I know that it's a lot of household trash there. I hadn't realized until I read the report that there was glass, and I liked Daryl's idea because he was going to put a nice nature trail there where people overlook the water and walk in, walk out on the nature trail above the dump. But then reading that there's still a lot of broken glass there, and the concerns of some of the people that are saying, what if my child falls off? And I'm thinking, well, you can always mitigate brownfields, but there's probably a huge cost involved. I know in Riverview there's skiing and golfing on the Riverview landfill, but that's well covered, and I'm sure there's no danger from broken glass at the Riverview landfill. So I was for the idea at first because I thought it would be a raised pathway, access to the water, and I liked the idea at first, but in reading some of the comments and the assessment by the environmental group, I'm thinking maybe we should put it on hold. And I see it was proposed on the back end of our very fine brochure. And
good thing we use the word proposed.
Yeah, proposed. But I'm thinking in the future, if there's a whole bunch of money that's sitting there for mitigation, that it may be turned into more of a nature area. But right now, I think we better put it on hold and make it, because I think it would take too much time and effort and money to make it accessible for walkers. And
Pat, do you have any comments?
I expressed concern about the glass because we were aware of that, and I believe I did mention at a previous meeting that I was concerned about the safety aspect of it. And I also have felt all the way along that the $1.6 million transfer and forced acquisition was inappropriate, and I really think with this in the township's hands and at the time of the transfer of that property to the open space program, it was irresponsible for this not having been given to you or given to this committee, so we were aware at the time of the transfer what we were dealing with. And I think it's unfortunate also, with it having been placed in open space, that it is lost to any brownfield development that might be more appropriate than an open space. You mentioned Riverview, my BASF history, the golf course there's a warehouse. Brownfield reuse is very well established in terms of an appropriate way to handle property, and it's well understood, and this should never have been transferred to the open space program, and I think it's really unfortunate that that was done, or that it was done and we weren't given all the information that the township had at hand. That is really disturbing to me. But I absolutely feel that this project cannot proceed, and that we do need to reassess if it should be padlocked, because of the fact that it is now called open space, suggests that people might feel comfortable entering it, and if we genuinely think a hazard remains, then it's irresponsible for us to leave it accessible.
Okay.
Can I say something?
I just want to make one correction, because it's been said twice by two different people. Riverview's Mount Crashmore was engineered from the ground up. It wasn't something that was a remedial thing afterwards.
Okay.
That was
I was just responding to
Right.
Pam's observation.
It was-
But I can speak to
But
the
it's
VA
still a
severance.
landfill.
It was started right from the ground level, and
That they were going to do exactly what they did with
They
it.
did it
Okay.
from the ground up. So it was never any kind of a.
Unlike the industrial settings that I was
No.
talking about
No.
in Wyandotte.
No, no.
Okay.
Okay, all right,
My
Darrell,
plans-
then Pam.
My plans were to cover it with 2 feet of mulch, have all the mulch I could.
And I don't think mulch is adequate for
Yes, it
the
is.
degree of hazard that we're talking
No,
about here.
I disagree with you. I can
Well-
prove it.
Okay.
I don't think we want to take that risk, Darrell. I'm sorry.
I can prove it.
Okay.
But
Pam?
that was
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Well, I think that the 2006 report should have been shared, but it was before this present board, because we came on board in 2008. And I don't really want to see it padlocked, but I think it's like some of our open space is really just to drive by and see greenery. And we've got other open space that could be opened up if people want to have a nature trail. So I think this should be enjoyed just because it's green and there and will never be developed.
I'm also concerned that that 2006 report stated that there should be consistent monitoring to make sure that the land soil remains the same as initially said, because there's possibility that it could degenerate. And who's responsible for this ongoing monitoring? I don't think it's our committee. I think it's township.
No, I haven't said anything yet. But
Go ahead.
Okay. Pat, anything else?
I'm done.
Okay, all right. All right. I concur with the fact that we should hold off on this thing. I agree. When I read this report, I had some concerns about it. The reason for my initially being in favor of the putting the trail in there was to knowing full well that there was maybe some trash in there, that maybe the trail would protect the walkers that were going through. That was my initial thought pattern in going through it. Now, I've walked through it twice. Once when Leah Shelke and I walked through it about 1.5 or 2 years ago, before it was transferred, as a possible kayak launch. We were asked by the township board member to look at possible areas for a kayak launch. So we looked at about maybe 6 or 7 possibilities and prepared a report for the township board at that time. And I walked through it, and I walked out on we walked through the woods, which was something like, it was like going through a jungle, but you come out on this nice meadow. So that's where my thought pattern was until I was made aware of this report and shared it with you. So my opinion right now is that I concur with everybody that we should hold off on this piece of property, on this. And as far as continuing monitoring, I think that's a good point. I don't know how much that would cost, but we want to make sure that when we ask people to go through an open space, that it's safe.
Should this continue to be an open space?
Should it be? I don't think we have.
It doesn't really meet the criteria.
It's a very fair question.
Totally.
Yeah, okay.
It's green
So it's green, yeah, but,
on the surface.
Yeah.
but it's supposed to be safe and accessible, which we've already said it isn't. So why is it an open space?
Because they shoved it at us.
Because, well, here, let's try to keep this professional. Because it was assigned.
That is professional.
Yeah.
They shoved it at us.
It's accurate.
Because it was transferred to us. You know, we didn't go out and search for that. It was
Transferred automatically.
It was transferred to
Right.
us.
I think that, based on the report conclusions, I don't think that this property should be accessible for people to walk through
Okay.
I
this
don't
period.
either.
Good
I
point.
think it should be just an isolated piece of property.
Okay, now I think before we kind of wrap this thing up, I'd like to open up the floor for just a couple of discussions about this particular one item. Does anybody want to make a comment? Yes, sir? And which I think the way you do it is just stand up. No, introduce yourself.
Hi.
And then state your concern.
My name is Dave Drukov. I live on 799A Bellevue.
Okay.
I have a couple comments or questions, and then I'd like to get back to something more principled to your group. In fact, Pam spoke of a consensus that she developed about people's need for trails. You folks, did you do a poll of the voters before? I sense that you guys have some activism sense that you want to do things. And what gives you this mandate? And what initiated this idea to develop this property? And this leads me all the way back to the point of I'm the voter, I go to the booth. What is open space? Because you're misleading me. My interpretation of open space is it's private. We want to keep it private. We don't want it developed. Open space to me means open, not closed off, not private, maybe expansive, but no means initiated to be public, not even a trail. And I've seen you guys over the last 2 years, and I've seen where you try to put trails, openings to trails through people's private property onto their backyard, where us voters, we had no idea that you were going to take this initiative. I mean, who developed what open space is?
Okay.
Did you propose it to the voters, or did you just develop it on your own? And if you're going to develop it on your own, why your own? Why aren't you polling the voters?
Okay.
I mean, you mentioned one person, some lady asked you, can you put a trail through the woods for her kid? And that seems to me to be a little silly, for lack of better words.
Okay.
You know, how this is 4,000 voters' property, who, if you polled 4,000 voters, would probably give you the same idea that I had, that the property was private, wanted to keep private from development at all.
Okay.
And where did the activism come from?
Okay. Thank you.
And yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'd like you to answer those questions.
Okay, we will. Okay.
Please.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments about this particular trail? Yes.
Voters need to know, because you have a village coming up, and did you explain to them?
Okay. All right. Okay. Yes, sir. And Bill?
Harold mentioned this too.
Bill Heil? And,
I live on East River.
okay. Go ahead, Bill.
Daryl approached me, he's a neighbor of mine, about an idea where people could have an opportunity to walk. We have people walking by our property all the time. They bring their dogs. Something there created in a safe atmosphere, I felt it was a good idea. And one of the things that we hear every so often is that people would like to have more access to water. It's one of our assets. If you position that thing properly, they do get a view of the water. I suppose if it was done right, there might be the possibility of a kayak launch.
Okay.
But through all of this, we are concerned about safety for people walking through there.
Okay.
And as I would think, maybe some environmental concern too.
Okay.
As I understand the situation, whatever toxic chemicals are above standard, at least as of 2006, were nominally above. There weren't many of them. There wasn't a lot of concern at that time. It seems to me that if you were to do anything with the property, you'd have to try and determine if there were any containers that had toxics in them that could deteriorate further and create a problem down the road. I think that would be a reasonable question. As regards the glass, we have people that have lots of dirt to get rid of, people like Charlie Campo. There are times when they excavate soil, they're looking for somewhere to put it. I would feel that if you put a foot or two of soil in appropriate places and then put the wood chips on top of it, you'd enhance the level of safety and make something that was possible. A survey, though, is also not a bad idea. Finding out exactly what people want has a way of changing over time as the population changes. If this survey that we're talking about on the chemical nature of what was going on there was 2006, what are we? We're not 10 years, we're 8?
6 years later.
6 years later. Okay, I'm not good at math here. A lot can happen in that period of time. But there's one other issue. We have a lot of people who are of the opinion that nature and open space is somewhat sacred, and others who are of the opinion that while it's nice to have open space, it's also there for people to enjoy. And I think we're going to have to work at coming at some kind of compromise on those issues. That site, I think, is good because there are not a lot of other uses for it that you could readily think of. Yeah, I mean, I can think of that site not being a good construction site because the land would settle unevenly. But putting it on hold right now, in my opinion, is wise, considering maybe a survey of people to see what they feel about the use of open space, considering ways to economically. If you get somebody like Charlie giving you that soil, the cost is the cost of some diesel fuel and a bulldozer operator's time to spread it.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sure.
My name's Brad Bysonecki. I live at 28087 East River Road. I'm just north of the property. First house. You did. Something I want to share so you guys know is just some pictures of the actual.
You know,
pass around.
if you want to, can you put it? I don't think it'll work.
Why, they can set it up. Well, on the screen in the booth.
You can pass it around. It's just simple pictures of the magnitude of the actual glass.
Okay, where was this taken?
This is throughout the whole dump
It's right
site.
next to his house.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what I walk into.
Okay.
A picture here is a tree actually falling down.
Okay.
So you can see a 4-foot hole of glass and garbage in that 4-foot hole.
Okay.
So it's not just on the surface, it's actually deep, very deep.
Okay. Did you see this when you walked in?
Did you know when you bought your house that was adjacent
I
to
did not,
yours?
I have born and raised here. I did not know. So,
show you.
something else that really concerns me, in the environmental study, things like cyanide, in my notes here, I have fluoride, arsenic, ammonium, zinc, lead. I have a 12-month-old at home. So, disturbing everything, and that's in the water table. I water my garbage from the canal. I water my grass. So those are my concerns.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? If as far as this issue is concerned, okay.
I just want to comment one more time.
Okay, is this about- is it
Beyond
about-
your scope?
Is it about this issue here?
Yes.
Okay.
Specifically, I'd like my questions answered, because I believe that you're beyond your scope of responsibility. I don't know, tell me, who deemed it appropriate for you to be activism the way you are, saying, "Oh, somebody wants, we need this, and this is the purpose of the open space." We need to get this straight because the voters have been misinformed.
And that
because I'm going to tell people, if I don't get an answer today, I'm going to go out there and spread it. That they've been misled. That your intent is to get their tax money, to buy property, to do things that you want to with it.
Okay,
Which is not the intent I believe they have.
Let me kind of violate one of the things to try to address your concern is that we try to make it a point to, as some of the other people have, to operate on consensus. We have sent out questionnaires. We did that about 10 years ago. We did get a reply back. About 60% of the people wanted the open space left as it was, without any trails. 35. Let me finish.
Just repeat that.
Just let me find. About 58, 59%. About 35% wanted trails and open spaces. About 4% wanted hard trails. So, given that, our original thought was that, well, we want to left it as it was. However, there's a number of people that have come forward requesting trails in certain locations, and that's what we have attempted to do. So I think I've answered your question by saying.
I think the voters know.
Yes. Okay, I understand. Okay, so I've kind of violated your.
So you want to get some consensus?
No, we didn't. All right. Anything else? If not, I'd like to entertain.
I'd like to put one. Sir, I have talked with people who say they have read or associated with people who have been involved with studies that show that when communities have these kinds of trails, the residents in many cases see that as an improvement in the value of the community. I'm not saying that you
That's an activism approach.
I am not claiming to be an activist. If you are saying that I'm an activist, that's your right.
I think, okay, let's say time out. Okay, I think I've bent the rules a little bit here. We're not. If we have any conversations, it'll be on the end of this meeting. Is there any other comments about this particular request?
Cliff.
You. Yes. Tom?
Tom Alvesta, Berkshire.
Yes.
What I'd like to know is, because there was a precedent set when the Open Space Greenways Committee came before the board and requested permission to put in 2 trails, one at the north end of the island and one was to improve the existing pathway between the end of Parkway on Park Lane and Stout. The one at the north end of Grosse Ile was turned down, and we approved allowing you to bring in basically TNT to cut the deadfalls down off the trail and clear the way.
Okay.
The statement about I talked to the people whose property adjoined that, and they stated that there had been live trees cut on their property. They don't wish to pursue it, and I'm not going to name them, but they don't wish to pursue it, and so we'll let that go at that. I'm curious as to, because you've set the precedent of approaching the board and asking for permission to do a trail. Why wasn't this trail? Why wasn't the board approached this trail, who ultimately gave you the permission to dump multiple loads of wood chips into marshland and then grade it down?
Okay. All right.
And so, I mean, I don't know that you were the ultimate decision maker on that, but I'd like to know who that person is.
Okay.
And it cost us $700 to remove them. There could have been fines and penalties from the DNR, but they were gracious enough to say if you remove these wood chips, we'll be satisfied with that. They also stated that any further discussion is supposed to, in regards to a trail, that you needed a topographical survey to delineate highland and wetlands. And then, let's see, again, the $700 in removing the chips, and then Darrell, I suppose that the the depreciation of your tractor, you'll present that board, that bill to the board.
Okay. Don't answer the question. Well, okay, thank you. Hey, any other questions?
Ernie Morvan.
Yes, Ernie.
The land that the board transferred in exchange for money.
Okay, we're getting beyond the scope of the
This
situation.
is a pertinent question. Did you review the inventory that they presented to you to make sure there aren't any other properties that have the same kind of circumstance? And what would this property, that's now considered toxic, I guess, worth? And what was it appraised at when they presented that list on that inventory to you? It had to have a value. You exchanged it for money.
Yeah, okay. That whole transfer, pardon me?
And I don't need the answer now. I'm
No,
just saying, could that
okay.
be reviewed?
Okay, we'll have to get back to you on that, or else, more importantly, the board has to get back with you on that. All right, we've had some discussion about it. I would like to make a motion that we hold off on any consideration for this trail.
I'll make a motion that we hold off on the...
Second? Approved?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, motion carried. All right, next item. The approved and set the date for the Dump the Junk program. Woody has normally been kind of spearheading this program. This is a biannual program whereby we provide dumpsters for people to take their refuse that cannot be picked up by normal trash, and have that area down by the DPS building. It's been well received, and make a motion. Should we do it again this fall?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
With enough dumpsters. Didn't we run out this last time?
Well, we're going to put all the trash on the ground
And what date should we have it?
in the middle of the month. Middle of October.
10/13, 10/14?
10/13, 10/14. Okay.
Is that a good weekend?
It's going to be. So I do.
All right. Now, what we need is
the middle of the
that's the middle of the month. 10/13, 10/14.
Okay.
The hours are from 9 to 4 on Saturday and 9 to 4 on Sunday. And we're looking for volunteers to help us monitor the program. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to volunteer for this program, it's worthwhile. I think we have a good time. There's a lot of camaraderie, and there's a lot of trash that's picked up. It's a good community service program. So
Sorry, you're saying October 10th and 11th?
No.
13th and
14th and
14th.
14th, okay.
So if there's anybody that would like to volunteer out in the audience, let us know, and we'll be sure to set up a date for you so that you can help us out. Yes.
Is Wooding taking volunteers, or
Yeah. You want to, what day you want?
Saturday the 13th?
Okay.
Morning or afternoon?
Either one.
So think about it.
Pam, that's
Okay.
the Sweet Adeline show date.
No, it's the 14th. It's the
All right.
Sweet
I tell you what we can think about and get in touch with Woody and let him know what hours you want. We usually require at least 2 people in the morning from 9 till noon, 2 people in the afternoon from noon till 4 o'clock. That's on Saturday, and the same thing on Sunday. Now, the next, so Woody, get a hold of Lorinda and set it up. It's almost all automatic.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right. Now,
Brain surgery.
Now, approve and set a date for a fall wood cutting event. We have tried this twice in the recent past, whereby at certain areas of the open space that's facing facing roads and facing traffic, that if the wood that's been felled and is unsightly can be picked up by residents and used in their fireplaces for the winter time. The way this program works is that you go to the township hall and you sign a release form for a specific date that you will be picking up the wood. The area is monitored, we'll have volunteers there, and the purpose, we can explain it in subsequent meetings. So, first of all, we have to decide two things. First of all, what date do we want to have it? And secondly, where do we want it this time? In the previous times, we've had it on the the north side of Grosse Ile Parkway. All right, and it's in the, so first of all, would we like to have it after the trees have, say, early November? When would be a good time to have it? Do we want to have it this year, first of all? Do we think it's
I think it's a good idea to have it, but I think
In
that,
December?
No, that's too late.
It's too late.
but, we got to make sure that the people understand that it's not easy to get in and out of that property.
Whatever property that...
Well, if we let's say we pick the same place, because I think you can work in the same areas.
Okay.
Things do Meridian.
Okay, all right, now, okay, so, taking it one step at a time, what, would you want to have it early November or mid-November? I think we should have it after the trees have, after the leaves have fallen from the trees.
Yeah. Probably the end of November, no?
Well, you're going to run into snow. If it snows, you're going to run into snow.
Maybe the first part.
And it's fall and it could rain. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right.
really kind of
That's
weather
22.
dependent.
So you're going to have 2 dates.
Yeah, a lot of people are on
One week and then a week later, if it rains, you do it that week.
We could have it Saturday in the first Saturday in November with a rain date of the following Saturday.
Okay, what is that
That'd be
date?
the 3 and the 10th?
November
3rd and
3rd or the 10th.
Okay. Now, I have my personal views of where I think we'd like to have it.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, I think I'd like to have it on Meridian, but I'll leave it up to the committees which way on the east side
of
of Meridian. Because there's a lot of trees down there.
There's a lot of trees that's down. T&T came in and dropped a bunch of trees, so it's just laying there.
Where?
Meridian.
Okay.
Is this down roughly across from the school, the
No,
Well,
south of that.
Oh, okay.
yeah, yes, it's right along that area.
So I wasn't in the area, but not.
Okay, so any other comments? Are we agreed that we're going to have it the 9th? What is it?
3rd and 10th.
The 3rd and 10th.
Good.
2 successive weeks?
No, we're going to have a 3rd. If it rains, then we're going to do that.
Okay, back up. Got it.
And we'll have it at Meridian, so we're looking for a couple of volunteers. What time should we have it, from 9 till 4?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, 9 till 4. Okay.
Because they usually, most of the time, they'll work from 9 to maybe 12, 1, and then you won't see them because some of them are usually tired by then.
Okay. So, we tried one in the spring and it didn't work, to tell you the truth. And the reason it didn't work is because when you do it in the spring, people are not in the mood to fire up their fireplace.
Well, it's too wet.
Too wet.
It's too wet.
It's too wet.
So does this mean people just come in and they cut their own logs and
Yeah.
haul it out?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's
Cool.
right.
But the trees have got to be down.
The trees are...
They have to be laying down.
Yeah, we're not cutting
Okay.
trees, we're just cutting trees that are
They're dead, they have to be
down on the ground.
And the reason we're doing this is because there's a lot of areas that, quite frankly, along the roadside have been unsightly. And we have spent quite a bit of money, open space maintenance funds, to kind of clean those areas out. And some of the residents at some of the board meetings have come before us and said, why don't we make the wood available to residents that want the wood, So we were offering this as a service. We'll try it this time and see how it works out. And we'll have to have a little PR on, announcing it. And a little bit of PR, I think, will help.
And what do we do if trees we want done aren't taken out? Do we then take them out?
No.
We just leave
They
them there.
just lay there.
We leave them there. That's what we have been doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Since we did that, we don't have enough money.
And, and it's only understandable that the people will take out the trees, the downed trees that are the best accessible.
I was just wondering if we could take the trees and mulch them, and then use the mulch for these infamous trails that are being discussed.
That's money. A lot of bucks, too much money.
No,
The brush,
but-
yeah, the brush you can.
But
Gotcha.
it is a thought.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
thought.
thought.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we can, now, as far as mulching, we could have, somebody come in and mulch it. and
All
we
brush.
We could use it for,
Okay.
let's
Anything
say we
that's
could
left
use it
over.
for the trail for the,
Because if we have
for the
trails,
Wildlife Conservancy.
if we have trails, I think we really need to maintain them,
Right,
and this would be a way of doing that.
exactly.
It's an excellent point.
Yeah, you take all the brush that's left over from the tree cutting and
Yeah.
and mulch
That
it.
costs money. We could just get the tree
Well,
cutters to drop it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They want
Do
to
we have a
drop it
mulching
someplace.
machine?
Nope.
All right. Is there any
We're not even
comment
going to get into that.
about the wood cutting?
Exactly.
Okay.
I would wait till the first week of December or second week of December, because perhaps by then, you may have frost in the ground, which would
That's true.
eliminate the...
They will change the date.
And as far as chipping up, going in and chipping these trees up, I know for a fact that Keith Lehman pays to dispose of his wood chips.
Right.
And he would be more than happy to dump them wherever you wanted.
Keith, okay.
Because he has to pay for the disposal, and it's money out of his pocket. So point would be, why would you pay to have somebody chip something up when you've already got something who was be more than willing to give
I'm
it
sure all
up?
the cutters are like that, though. Same.
If you make contact with the people who are in the business of that,
I'm just showing Keith
Yeah,
Lehman
I know a lot of wood chips.
but
That's a good example.
but they all face the,
Yeah, Keith Lehman is a good resource.
Okay, now,
Okay, he wants to go to December. You want to change it?
would you want to go to, any problem with going to December?
I don't care.
I think December.
December?
First week in December?
My
What?
favorite December.
Okay.
What's the
And,
first week?
Tom, if it snows, we'll blame you for it.
I love cutting trees in the snow.
December 1st is the first Saturday.
Okay.
Okay, then the following week is the 8th.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, it's the
So it's now the
12th
1st and the 8th?
First and the 8th.
First the 8th. First week, if it's terrible, we go to the 8th.
That's correct. Okay, now we have two other items, the comments on the open space brochure. We published a brochure combining and updated it for 2012. The infamous trail is on the back. We've decided we're not going to do that. I have received some favorable comments on the trail, stating the trail, not trail guide, but the open space guide, that it was well prepared. We put a lot of work into it, and this time, instead of putting it onto the township offices, we spent the extra money to mail it to every resident, so we hope it's appreciated. Open space overseer assignments. This is kind of like an internal item. Each one of us...
Could we go back just one moment to
Yes.
the brochure? I think it's beautifully laid out and in color.
Yes.
It's not just green and brown, it's in color, and I think
Well, Darryl
This
did a
is
lot of
good.
work on this.
well done, and it's updated, so all the present open space is included in it.
Yeah, Cliff did a good job on it.
Okay.
I have a comment. I think it was really great. I'm a city gal. I took that map and tried to find the trails. It was not easy.
I'll have to go with you.
What, couldn't we have
We'll
some
find-
kind of sign that says, enter here?
You could.
Because really, I had 3 ladies with me, and we had a heck of a time finding out where to go on that trail.
We need mulch.
And we are
We
past
need mulch
Girl
on-
Scouts,
Yeah,
but
we
we
need mulch on
still...
those trails.
Okay.
All right.
That's
Yeah,
where
so
we need the mulch.
we might want to put, next time we update, saying, this is where you enter.
Right, a mulch entrance.
Something.
Where it's obvious.
Yeah,
Maybe
gotcha.
a nice little wooden sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Never did find that big tree where you go walk around to come out.
No.
Didn't happen.
And then name the trails.
All right. I think each of you
Put her name on it.
have been given a copy of the overseer assignments, They're right underneath the questionnaire.
Here?
Yeah.
There?
Right there. So I'm going to go through them rather quickly and see if you want to change the areas that you have. Rose Allison, who is no longer on our committee, doesn't necessarily mean, Pat, that you're stuck with what she had. So, Pam, why don't we start in, do you have any problem with the areas that you have as far as overseeing?
Fine.
Okay. At the danger of being criticized, Pat Nielsen, the areas that are kind of written down for you, is there any other areas that you would prefer to switch with somebody?
This is just a point of information that might make it easier for someone who's assigned this, but not only am I a past president of the Garden Club, but I am currently a very active member of the Garden Club. So interfacing and communication with the bird sanctuary might be easier if I had it, but no problem if I don't.
So let it be written, so let it be done. Okay? Okay. I had a call with Pat O'Brien. Right. So interface with Pat on that.
I will.
Okay?
Can I take Wendell Court off your hands? Because that's more on my usual run and that kind of thing. I think that makes, I'm regularly to and from church. I mean, it's right there.
And the other ones assigned to me, I have not had the opportunity to look at, so.
Okay, now Wendell Court goes to...
Me.
Okay.
That goes to Pat Selby.
But I'd like to shed one of mine if I can.
Okay. Woody, let me see. Pam, you have no problem with yours. Pat Nielsen has got the wildlife sanctuary. Woody?
What?
Look at yours. Do you have any...
No, I'm east of the bird sanctuary, means that's to the water.
Yes.
And I also have Horse Mill.
Greenways.
Is that north, is that south of Horse Mill? Between Thoroughfare and Meridian?
Yeah, look at the map.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Look at the
It's
map.
right on Horse Mill. It's to the west. It's on the north side of Horse Mill.
It's on the north side? Okay, I know where that one
Yeah.
is.
Well, actually, you have both pieces.
I got
The
both
west and the
sides.
south.
I got
Yeah.
both sides.
What I'll do is I'll attach a copy of the map and key it to each of you so that you know
Okay,
exactly
I got the north and south, and the north and south side of Horse Mill,
All right.
from Thoroughfare to Meridian.
Hey, Pat, let me see. Do you want the Corn Apple property or not? That's the north
No, I
end.
know it's on the north end. I don't get up there as much as I did, but
Okay. Okay. Okay, is there any of those areas that you want to shed?
Marion Park, if there's anybody who's more on the north end, that's just not...
Where's Marion Park, can I ask?
That's where we had the trail proposal.
It's way
Is
up
that up
here,
by Paulina?
Yes. Yeah.
north of Voight, in that area.
Voight.
Yeah.
You want that one, Woody?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
Is there a sign saying Marlena Park?
Marion Park? I don't know if
Marion
there
Park,
is.
is there a park, a sign up there, or what?
Okay. While they're discussing that, do you have any problem with what you've got?
I'm good.
I do not
Are
know
you
if there's a
good?
sign.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so it's up by Paulina?
Okay.
Paulina, yeah.
It's up by Paulina, right?
Okay.
Yes.
And Voight.
All right.
Yes.
And Voight. Well, it's got to be north of Voight, because Paulina is north of Voight.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I'll take care of it. Is there anything else,
I'll look.
Pat Nielsen, that you want other than the bird sanctuary or the wildlife sanctuary?
No, I'm open to whatever anybody wants to give me.
Any
Give me a
pitfalls I
new
should know
adventure.
Okay, all right.
Nothing I'm aware
How
of.
about if I do this? I'll redo this. I'll email it to you. Take a look at it. If there are any changes you want to make, let me know.
Okay, now, do we get any kind of a check sheet or guidance as to
Tell
what
me if you want it.
we do when we walk through these places?
We have not.
Okay.
However,
That's on the north
having
and
said
south.
that might be a good thing to do. Can you take that on? Develop some sort of a schedule?
Sure.
Careful
What
what you ask for.
you're really trying to do, though, is trying to find misuse of the property.
Oh, misuse.
Yes.
If
I mean,
anybody's dumping, if
Okay.
there's construction material dumped in there.
Any dead or dying trees that are a hazard.
But I think a check sheet, I think that's an excellent idea. So if you take that on, Pat, I'd certainly
Now,
appreciate it.
for litter and all of that, are we responsible for
Yes.
checking it
Yes.
on a regular basis to make sure there's no litter?
Yeah, if there's any,
So that would be part of the check sheet?
absolutely.
Okay.
If there's any litter on there, and if you find the person that's littering, deal with it.
And do we look for accessibility for adults, children, handicapped, or anything?
We haven't been, but just,
So just throw my ideas in and
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You just look at the property and you see whether there's any abuse to the use of that property, whether it's littering or whether it's dumping.
And what, would you like this by the next meeting?
We do it, we do
Oh, you do
it.
this in the
No
spring,
chains,
the
the right-
fall.
No, I mean the check sheet.
yeah, we do it once in the fall, once in the spring. If you can have it by the next meeting, that would be wonderful, Pat.
Okay.
If you can, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll send you an email of the way I think this thing is, based on what everybody has said.
Great.
But it's not fact. If you want to change it, change it. Okay, and let me
Okay.
know. All right. Okay. Is there any other comments? Is there any other comments? Maybe items we haven't covered? Should we?
you
What
in the
items
other
should we
comment
cover
section?
for the? Gotcha. Are we? Any other items that we might want to put on the next agenda?
Just for my edification, I'm trying to get really tuned
Yeah.
into this. When I watched the council meeting, I heard them saying that there's now a commission, Pam, correct me in the terminology, for paths and trails. Does that exist?
Bikes and pedestrians.
Bikes and trails,
Bikes.
okay.
Yes.
Those trails have nothing to do with open space trails. Those are trails someplace else.
The paved trail,
Okay.
bike path.
Pat, there's one thing we haven't done yet that you want to do, and we should do.
A joint meeting with those guys, or?
The liaison.
Yeah,
For the-
we talked about that, or I
And
think a
we-
joint meeting, because I think there are common areas of interest.
Yeah, I was
So-
wondering if there was a crossover between
Now that I remember.
one chart
Yeah.
versus the other chart.
Pat suggested a number of meetings ago that we should invite someone from the Bike Path Commission to act as a liaison to our commission. Invite them to the meeting, or I can talk to the chairman and say, who would you like to send? We'd love to have you. Do you know who that is?
Not a clue.
Okay.
Brian
Eric
Pollock,
Ranka
right?
is the liaison.
Who?
Eric Ranka is the liaison.
So should I get in touch with Eric?
I would, he's out of town, he's in Germany right now, but he'll be back.
Or the committee chair is Brian Pollock, right?
I believe so.
So why don't I just talk with Ryan? Would that be all right, or would Eric be better?
I'm here as a guest.
I'm asking you the question. Well, okay.
Yeah, I'm not,
And
that's what I would
And
suggest
then,
either Eric or
Cliff,
Brian.
one other thing, our survey was 10 years ago as to who wants what with the open spaces. I
That was
think
in
that,
2003.
I think the mix of the people on the island now has really changed. We may want to do a new survey.
Okay.
I
discuss
don't know if this is good or bad, but when people have found that I've been appointed here, man, have I heard a lot that I never knew was out there.
Well, I've heard a lot,
And
too.
it's very strong. There doesn't seem to be a middle. They either want it or they don't. And don't say you want it when they don't want it. Because some of my friends almost didn't come to dinner. So I think we need to get a new feel for what our
So what
community
you're asking for is
is.
another survey.
Well, but
Yeah.
it's got to boil down to this, and that is that you can't satisfy all the people all the time.
No, but
There's
you're
no
going to
question
have a
about it.
feel for what your
Yeah,
community
And
is.
you can't take a percentage, like, let's say 51%, that means it's going to go that way, and
Right.
49% is going
Right.
to have to be dissatisfied. It's got to be some kind of a balance.
Right. But either way, you've got to know what they want.
Okay.
Well, you have to know
Somebody.
we have to know what they want, but in the final analysis, the responsibility is for the people in position of authority.
Correct.
They have to make that decision. They can't go by
Different on that.
51 to 49. What's that?
Well, excuse me. Go ahead.
Whose rule?
Go ahead.
Not
Just a
a
minute.
simple majority, though. It's got to be something
time
that's got to
for
be
public comment.
done for the better good
We'll have public comment in a minute.
of the whole township.
Okay. So,
I just think we need an update.
okay, fine. Okay, anything else? Yes, Pat?
I agree with Pat that a 10-year survey, I think it'd be a good idea to get the feeling of the community. 10 years ago, 2/3 wanted it just open space
Right.
there, and about 1/3 of them wanted to open it up for nature trails. And so in our open space guide, there are only 3 trails that have been actually specified as a nature trail. One was done by an Eagle Scout, and that was approved by the board. The other one is the existing wildlife sanctuary, and that's been there for
Forever.
like 40, 50,
Right.
60 years.
Okay.
And the only new one is in Manchester Woods, so it's not like we're pushing nature trails. People have come to us, we wanted to have a policy, and it was not approved by the township board. So I give, I think I can speak for Darrell that he oversees that meadows that we upgraded the term that we use for it, but the old dump, and he was so excited about having a little waterfront trail there that he maybe was overzealous and put the chips in there, had somebody who had extra chips dump in there, and then realized secondhand that...
Well, we were going to redistribute them.
Redistribute them.
But Pam, do you think I could get in, with the homeowner? Maybe the homeowner would volunteer his time with me and get this mess cleaned up. You think that would be approved?
That's huge.
Well, I got
If that's a visible...
Well, it's right next to his property,
Yeah.
and that's... I
Not
couldn't-
good.
If it were next to my property, I'd want it cleaned up,
Then, all right.
And that's your overseer, so I think that this should be...
anyway.
But anyway, I just wanted to speak up for Darrell because I think he was excited about the prospect without realizing that there was this undercurrent of a hazardous waste there. I like the idea of open discussion. I was at a conference where they worked on consensus, and nobody walked out of the room unless their questions were answered, or they either agreed or disagreed, but at least they didn't walk out. And so I would just like to recommend that if anybody has something they would like to bring up, let's be open-minded and listen to them. And the gentleman that was concerned about we're pushing nature trails, it's not that we're pushing them. People have come to us, and some have been turned down, like the Marion Trail was turned down because it just didn't seem to work with the neighbors there. So I don't want him to think that we're pushing it. We're open-minded, and we listen to public people that have come proposing nature trails.
What we're trying to do, it's hard to sit here and try to please everybody, trust me. I try to run this meeting in such a way that kind of emulates the township board meeting where we have structured agendas but still give people the chance.
But you
at the
did mention
appropriate
we
time.
wanted to be informal, and I'm thinking we're a little more
That's why we're
informal.
here. Okay, all right. Any other comments from the board? Okay, now, if public comment is...
Before we go to public comment,
Yes.
there's the wood being cut when unauthorized that you wanted to make sure we discussed. Was that the live trees being cut, or was that people
Well,
entering
it was
open
live
space?
trees, from what she said.
Oh, well, I thought that was the issue of people entering open space unauthorized. Was that, did I misunderstand that
Yes.
at the beginning? Okay, is that not an
It was
issue?
No, it's not. It was cutting.
Okay,
It was,
okay, I just want to make sure we address the issue that was raised at the beginning of the meeting.
I think as you stated, that Dale Ream is investigating that issue to find out.
And I
what the-
think
what
it
the-
should
what the
be a
true story
report at our next meeting so we know what that's all about.
Okay, we'll have to follow up with Dale on that, okay.
And I got a call from a constituent who was wondering how much it would cost to do a survey like we did 10 years ago. And do you have that figure handy, or?
I don't have it handy. I think, I have the result, okay.
Yeah, we know
But
the
I
results.
don't have it handy.
Well, and
I
there's so many
think-
different tools now than there were before. If we're serious about a survey, we should really explore
Yeah, but
what our
there's
options
one thing
are.
that I have preached, and I will continue to preach it until my dying day, and that is that statistics don't lie, but statisticians do.
Correct.
Okay, so you can make the statistics do whatever you want them to do, but the idea is that you have to make your mind up ahead of time what percent of the people are really going to influence any decisions that you reach.
Yeah, if you send out, I think we sent out, and Art, your point's well taken, we sent out about 3,000 questionnaires. If memory serves, and I'll have to check this out, I think we got like maybe 20-25% return. I think, but don't quote me on it, I think it was somewhere, which I think was, according to surveys, is probably a pretty good return. Yeah.
But how did you pick those 3,000?
We sent
I didn't
one.
get one.
We sent one to everybody.
This is a whole, everybody that's got an address received the copy, but
This
not
is-
everybody's going to respond. See, this is why I say
Yeah,
statistics don't
but I
lie,
mean,
but
the fact that you
statisticians
got
do.
20-25% back was great.
Yeah, but that means that
I think those were on there.
the 25% could be influenced by 5% of the people.
Absolutely.
And this is what I'm alluding to, and that, you got to be very careful.
That's right. No, but what you're saying is true, Art, but what do you do? In other words, like voting, for example. We have 20% of the people that vote.
One of the things you have to do is look at the profile of the respondees. I mean, you know what address it came from, but you've
okay,
got a
this-
large amount coming from here, none coming from here. That
Before-
tells you something.
I think we've agreed that we want to do another survey.
Right.
But let's take the time to really research it before we go out.
Correct.
Your point's well taken. All right. If there's no more, we will open this up for public comment. We want to make this as quickly as we possibly can. It's 8:15. Does anybody in the audience have any public comment or any comment concerning the open space
3 minutes per
program?
person at
Yes, sir.
township.
Steve Drew, 799 Bellevue. I'd say that Groseal has a long-standing tradition of identifying 3 things: quiet, private, and natural. And you delved into making changes to our natural environment that are going to be open to change. It's a change in scope. You said it was against the consensus of the voters. I think that was a dreaded mistake. Your logic escapes me. You said someone told you there was a path that was overgrown. Look, I grew up in the country. That's a path nobody uses. Are you looking for a purpose to spend money unpurposely? Because no one's using that path. If I use a path, I use it every day. I push the stuff aside. The path will never get blocked. So your logic escapes me again. And I think that you ought to start listening to the voter consensus. I'd like this question answered. When you said that people came to you about specific trails, my question is, did any trustee from this board that sits up here task you to do a trail? That's what I'd like to know. Who are these people that you find influential to the point where 1 or 10 people gets a trail put through the woods?
Okay.
And it just, like I said, we have attributes here, and I look at you folks, and you look like the right presentation of the people that can understand the virtues that have made Groseal special for hundreds of years. And I think we ought to go back to it. I, as a voter, did not intend for the open space to be used for any purpose, not publicized in a brochure, and I hope the heck not to someone outside of Groseal. And furthermore, I would guess that a large majority of the township residents do not want Groseal to be a destination. That would be a mistake. Maybe enhance our attributes that we have that are so special, and quietly, the way we have, made it a special place. And another question I have, and if you could answer that, were you tasked by a trustee? When you talk about spending money on brochures, now, do you have a certain pot of money that you can use? Or, because you guys up there sound like you're some freewheeling spending entity, and I'd like to know what the actual trustees approved before you take action, because I'm seeing brochures here. What meeting did they approve the money to be spent on brochures?
Okay, we'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Brad Bisedecki, 28087 East River. Saw your brochure, and that's what raised the flag right in the beginning.
Sure.
It seemed like it was going right to my backyard and looping around.
Okay.
May 15th, on my computer, I saw your meeting, and Woody Clark goes, "Hey, maybe we notify the people next to this?"
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said, "No, it doesn't affect anyone." Well, that trail there looked like it affected me.
Okay.
I felt I should have been notified.
Okay. Understand.
One other quick thing, asked me to help to clean up the junk next to my house. The very first dump the trunk junk, the first and second, I think 5 years ago, I was the guy bringing barrels of oil in my truck, the empty barrels of oil, all the garbage. So much that people thought I was a contractor.
Yeah, so we do.
Do you know where that stuff came from? Next to my house, all the way to the dump. I dragged it out personally.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
My feeling that there are already at least 3 designated trails. Even in your brochure, it names them. Plus, there's one that runs back between Stout and Burning Bush, and they're not maintained very well.
Okay.
I have no opposition to maintaining those trails, and I'll go to the one at Centennial Farm because there's parking and restroom facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And with the number of dead trees that we've experienced over the last 5 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of open sunlight coming into these areas that could be used for planting new trees, indigenous to Groseal, who may be disease resistant, that sort of thing. There's enough sunlight coming through the canopy now that could support them. So, they have maintenance funds. It wouldn't be a bad idea to engage people to do an improvement project. Once those existing trails, you're showing usage on them, and people are interested in them, and maybe there's I've hiked state trails where there's a little post, and it's a blue trail, it's a red trail, whatever, and the arrow points you that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that would have any real opposition to that because it's already there, and you're just proving the usage. As far as the property down here on East River Road, the meadows, they wanted to put a marine terminal in there just north of the toll bridge a number of years ago. When they started digging, they started exposing barrels. They covered back up, and it's now become a exceptionally expensive reclamation site where it's capped and there's wells, and they drain off it and they monitor it, and they had to put in break walls. And the point is this: when you start to uncover materials that you don't know existed to begin with, you now become liable for it. Now, I feel bad for Brad, but I grew up on this island also, and I remember it being a dump. And God knows who and what dumped whatever during that period of time. We don't have records of that.
Maybe dump a lot in there.
Got to be careful when if you start to uncover that or try to remove it. You may be exposing yourself to something toxic, as well as releasing it into the water table, and we have no idea what kind of cost that we would incur because of that. So I'd be very cautious about that site. But I think that I just believe that if you have projects and encourage people to improve the existing trails, and like I say, why pay somebody to cut chip wood when you've got tree cutters on this island who would be willing to dump because it costs them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's those type of things. Be careful what you uncover. You may not like what you find, and you may become, all of a sudden you become legally responsible for its entire removal. And those projects run millions and millions of dollars. So I feel bad for Brad, but I don't know what to do. And you're absolutely right. As far as the township, 2006, when that was acknowledged that there was toxins there, it should have been made. It should have been made. I don't say public. It should have been common knowledge, and that should have been passed on. I wasn't part of that.
I brought that up. I brought that up at the time, and Dale said everything was fine, just on the top.
So I guess that's a question that has to go back to our township manager for answers. But I would encourage you to, and this is a little off subject, but please bear with me on this. And Pam, the planning site at the foot of Parkway and Jefferson, where there has been some comment as to, I come back, I go out to Cadillac, right? I just go to the other side of the state quite a bit. And I usually stop at there's a rest area on 75, right in the Bay City area. And there's some plantings there that there's a plaque that said done by under the guidance or whatever of Michigan State University. And there's a lot of, again, indigenous Michigan plants. And it's really quite impressive. And it would be worth looking into something like that because there were ferns, they're nicely done, nicely maintained, and very representative of that part of the state. And I think you take advantage of universities and for things like that. And that's what I would encourage with the trails. I'd look at planting some trees in there, which could be a great Eagle Scout project. Again, because our overhead canopy is got lots of holes in it now, and it's placed for a new growth.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask you a question? Just a
Go ahead,
we're
Well,
talking
maybe after
about
the
the
meeting.
dump. Be careful what you open because it might turn into a Pandora's box, is the way I would say it. I want to turn it around the other way. If we were to cover that over, and instead of creating a deteriorating situation, I believe the two trees that are best for what I'm thinking are poplars and sycamores. There's something about a couple of different trees that hold stuff in place. And my thought is then you could create something that would be safer if you talk to the right people.
I know we're
adjourned?
getting off track.
Because,
I
yeah.
remember when they had all the trees planted over here by the Toll Bridge?
Yes.
They did that for a reason, because those trees, there was an experiment to see whether those trees would absorb the toxins and use them like a fertilizer.
That's what I think.
So-
Okay.
Where my head is.
I think if there's no more comments, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Who says it?
We can continue talking.
I appreciate